Nice to see you all. So in 48 hours from right now, 2 of you are going to be married. You actually will be. You will. If you are the same gender, you may not consummate that marriage in the same way as typical marriages, or you may. No judgment. But there's a very real possibility that in 48 hours from this very moment, 2 of you will be married or more as co-founders. We promote polygamy, bigamy. All the me's are supported here. And this will be one of many steps on an entrepreneurial journey to take for a long time. And so my entrepreneurial journey started not too dissimilarly from yours, which was sitting in a classroom. And I had been a serial student. After undergrad, went to business school and then law school. I like to say it was a 2-for-1 special the day that I signed up. And it was in my last year of grad school that I had the idea for DocStock. And 6 years later, the company is now one of the most trafficked websites in the world. We get 20 million unique people a month coming to visit the website. We have 25 million registered members. There are 50 people that work in the company in a really cool office down by the beach in Santa Monica. And we get to fulfill what I think is a really cool mission, which is to make every small business better. And guess what? You all are on the path to being small businesses. So it really excites me not only to meet you all in person, but get to spend every day doing things to help people like you out. And I remember when folks would come talk to me in a setting just like this, it felt really far away. That outcome that they were talking about, that life that they were living, felt like something that was somebody else's life and not mine. But then at some point, I started asking myself, well, why not me? Why couldn't it be me? Why shouldn't it be me? And those are the exact kind of questions that you have probably already been asking yourselves that brought you here today. So in the next half hour, what I'm going to do is talk about a couple topics related to this very early phase of getting your companies off the ground that I think will be helpful in this stage. And if I can help you all get to where I am a little bit more quickly than I got there, then I'll consider that will be successful. And can we agree, can we make a deal that if in some short period of time you're all running internet companies where 500 million people have used that product, that would be a good thing? Yeah. All right. Then that's our deal. That's what we're going to do tonight. And I'm going to see if I can figure out the people that are going to get married here and see if I can play a Yenta matchmaker. So on the way in, Alex was telling me, because we're going to pair up tonight, we're going to start meeting people, that some folks have reservations about, hey, should I share my idea? Why am I going to share my idea? I'm the technical person, I'm the programmer, I'm the coder. Why am I going to take some douchebag MBA and tell him or her, like my idea, I'm the one building it? So let's start with the first thing that we're going to cover, which is, it is my belief that it's not the ideas that are important, but the execution. So it is not your ideas that are important, but the execution of those ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen. They're out there in the ether. We could spend the next 5 minutes and we could brainstorm 100 ideas here, and I guarantee you we could take one of them and build $1 billion business around that. And there are 2 general school of thoughts that people have around sharing ideas and setting goals. The first is, hey, I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want people to steal my ideas, and I don't want to get shit on by other people that tell me my idea is no good. Both relatively fair points. And then there's another school of thought, which is my particular point of view, which is when I have a new idea for something, I tell as many people as early and as often as possible. And the first reason I do it is because people are going to shit on my idea. I want them to. I want that feedback. I want to get all those points of views of the thing that I don't know. And that's what's going to trip you up the most. It's not the things that you know you have issues with, or the things that you do well. It's the things that you don't know that are your biggest stumbling blocks. Sounds like an Abbott and Costello bit, right? I don't know's on first. I don't know's on second. So the second thing is that the more people you tell your idea to, I've always thought that it creates these little mental social contracts that you then feel responsible to fulfill. So I purposely tell as many people my idea because guess what? Then they're going to come up to me a day later, a week later, a year later and say, hey, what's going on with that idea? And that creates social pressure for me to actually go through with that thing that I said I was going to do. And one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later is how speed and momentum are the keys in this stage, and the killer is inertia. And having social pressure on you to do that thing that you said you were going to do is one of the most important things to actually break out of the idea phase and into building the product phase, which is where we're all at tonight. So you got ideas? I will tell you the most successful entrepreneurs share their ideas early and often. They don't worry about people stealing them. They don't worry about people shitting on them. There is no idea that any of us have that is so good that 12 people before us haven't thought of it. Our shit's not that original. All right, second thing we're going to talk about, co-founders. And I gave the idea before that, hey, you're getting married. I am not joking. This person in my life that I have spent the most time with in the last 6 years of my life is the co-founder of my business. It's not been my girlfriends. It's not my family. It's not my friends. It is the co-founder of DocStock that I have spent more time with than any person in my life. In fact, he spends more time with me than he does his own wife and children. And the reason that's important is the following, is that the person or persons you pick to start your company with, to get the idea off the ground, to build the product, is by far the singular most important thing you're going to do in the first year of your business. And probably is within the top 2 most important things you're ever going to do in the business. If you have the right, which I don't even know what it means, idea, but the wrong mix of people, there is no chance you can build a successful business. Whereas if you have a wrong idea, or an idea that needs to get iterated on a couple times before you become successful, but you have the right team, you will absolutely find your way to success. So what are the types of things you should be looking for in your co-founders? Well, to start off with one, complementary skill sets. If I'm good at sales and promoting and raising money, I don't need another partner like that. What I need is someone that's going to build the architecture and framework and do design and code a web application that we want to bring to life. And that sounds like a pretty clear example. But too often, what you find are teams with people that have very similar skill sets, that there's no incremental value add amongst the team members. The second thing you want to find is someone that you have a very strong working chemistry with. And working chemistry does not actually necessarily mean that this person is someone that would be a close friend of yours. It turns out that my co-founder and I, at this point, are pretty much brothers. We call each other brother. We treat each other like brothers. I love him as if he was my own family. That said, had I just met him 6 years ago, neither he or I would be like, hey, that's someone that I'm going to be friends with. Our interests are different. Our backgrounds are a little different. We kind of see the world in a slightly different way, the things that he wants to do for fun. I mean, he goes out on the weekend and takes photography of, like, birds. I'm like, this is the last thing that I want to do on my weekend. So I don't know that he and I would have been like buddy-buddy, but what we have is a lot of mutual respect, the same values, and not just work-wise. There's 2 sets of values we all have. We have our work values. How hard do we work? How do we think about problems? What are our ethics? And then we have our overall personal values, which is our integrity and our accountability and our transparency. And the most important thing that Alon Schwartz and I found in each other is someone that had similar values and complementary skill sets. The last thing that I will actually suggest about your co-founders and the folks that you work with, which may seem a little counterintuitive, is I actually don't think that you can have, I should say, I think that in many cases, having equal 50-50 partnerships is more a detriment. And some of the more successful co-founding teams I have known and worked with are ones where there is a slightly different hierarchy. And the reason is twofold. One, if two people have exactly the same decision-making capability, you are inevitably going to get to a point where you disagree. And you have to have a process, you have to have a mechanism to say, hey, how are we going to get past this? Now, in theory, you can both have the same amount of equity and just one person gets to make the call. But unless you've known each other and worked for each other for a while, that is typically can be hard. Because if you both have the same skin in the game and you really disagree with your co-founder and where they want to be, it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to take it your way. And so typically, even in co-founding teams, one person has to emerge a little bit. It doesn't need to be a lot, but say, okay, when push comes to shove, I'll be the one to make the call. I will take ultimate responsibility. And it's typically the person that ends up in the CEO spot. Now, in our case, it was a little bit more clear-cut because I had had the idea and I was actually building out the product already when I met Alon. So it set the terms for our relationship because not only was I going to take responsibility for running the business from the business side, but I had already gotten the product off the ground and was moving forward with it. You all may not be in that situation. You may be where there's someone on the tech side and someone on the business side meeting for the very first time. And I'm not here really to say, hey, you shouldn't both have equal amounts of equity. That's not what this is about. What it's about is saying there has to be a process for how you make decisions when you disagree, which is going to happen, and it's going to happen often. Next point. How many of you here are pretty much A students? Don't be bashful. Raise your hand. Keep your hands up for a second. Everyone take a look at them. You got your hands up? Okay. I actually don't think that you guys are the best entrepreneurs in the room. How many of you here are closer to C students? You're my people. I was closer to an A student, although I probably put in the effort of a D student. But what I have typically found is that C students tend to make some of the very best entrepreneurs. And if I were sitting where you are tonight, I would try to go find a really entrepreneurial C student. Now again, let me qualify this a little bit. The lazy, getting high, good-for-nothing C student? The not necessarily super academically always the top of the class, entrepreneurial, doing lots of things at one time C student? You will be surprised how often it's that person that goes on to be the most successful. I can tell you from undergrad, business school, and law school that it's my C students' friends that have most often gone on to hire my A student friends. We'll get around to questions in a bit. And I think it's for two reasons. The first is, I think it's the really smart folks that get caught up in being smart. And they tend to think that they can think their way into success, as if it's a problem, a Rubik's Cube, a crossword puzzle that has a solution. There is no solution for startups. The solution is you're going to jump in, work your ass off, not know what the hell you're doing, and after 2 years, pick your head up, and if you're lucky, you're still in the game. And that's not a mentality for people that have been used to following the rules and getting A's that they think about. The A students think that if I do X and Y and Z, then it leads to the following result. Business doesn't work that way. Startups don't work that way. There are too many unknowns. There are no grades. There are no answers. There's just unknown. And what a lot of C students tend to have is this disdain for rules, this condescension for doing things the way that everybody else does it, a sense that they can do it better than other people if they were just left to their own devices. And that is, in many cases, the very key entrepreneurial spirit that when you have nothing, that when you have ether, when it's blank, can help you take from nothing to something. Now, if you have too many C students grouped together or too many A students grouped together, you just got a bunch of dysfunction. So what you want to do is you want to get the entrepreneurial C students commingling with the process, rule-oriented, problem-solving A students, and you're going to make a beautiful B, a beautiful billion-dollar company. Point number 4 that we're on. The single biggest killer of startups is not building a bad product. It's not a failure to get customers. It's not even an inability to raise money for your startup. It's inertia. It's the ideas that die before they were ever able to be brought to life. And we're going to play a game right now. And this is a game you're going to get to play the rest of your life. And this game is called the rocking chair game. And anytime you are unsure about something in life, you doubt it, you are wondering if it's something you should or shouldn't do, you're going to fast forward your life to when you're 90 years old and you're sitting in a rocking chair looking out this window reflecting on your life. And as that 90-year-old version of yourself in the rocking chair, you're going to think about the moment you're in right now. And you're going to ask yourself, did I really regret doing that? Did I not regret doing it? What would my 90-year-old version of myself tell me to do? And I can promise you the following. The majority, all of you are here because you want to do your own startup. Is that correct? Yes. Less than 20% of you will ever get a startup off the ground. I don't even mean be successful, sell it, make lots of money. Less than 20% of you will ever get your own startup off the ground. Just a mathematical law of averages. I know it for a fact. I don't know which one of you. You can't come up to me or tell me about yourself. I have no way of identifying it. I used to think I'd know. I'd say, oh, that person, they're going to do it, right? This person's going to be the one. You don't know. And in the context of this game, here's the question I've got for you. Do you really want to be looking back at your life when you're 90 years old and say, I never took my shot? I never did it. I never took the chance. I never put myself out there. I never did the things I had to do. And what will happen is there's inertia. There's other pressures and competing influences on your life. You've got school, you've got family, you've got to pay the bills. When you graduate, all your friends are going to get jobs for $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and they're going to get to go to nicer dinners and buy clothes from Banana Republic and J. Crew, and they're going to get their first hybrid, and they're going to get an apartment where they live by themselves and not at home. And you'd be like, wow, I really want all those things too. I don't want to be a poor student for another 3 years while I try to start my own idea. I'm going to do that thing. I'll come back to entrepreneurship. And there will be inertia preventing you to do it. And the thing that gets you past that inertia is speed and momentum. At this stage of the game, it doesn't matter about being right. All that makes a difference is that you get into the game and you run as fast as you can and that you keep that momentum going, because that's what's going to break this hold on all of us, the inertia that pulls us away from entrepreneurship. The name of the game is speed. How fast can you move? How fast can you get a product up? How quickly can you get customers? How quickly can you get money? You got to move on it you've got to get it done in the next hour. 48 hours? Fuck that. You've got 4 hours to get your product launched. 48 hours. 48 hours, if I could get done, I could build 10 products in 48 hours. The name of the game is speed. How fast can you move? How fast can you get this product up to market? A startup is like running a marathon in a series of sprints. I'll repeat that. A startup is like running a marathon in a series of sprints. These things last a long time. Listen, I know we all hear the stories of someone starting Instagram, small team, 5 people, 10 people, 18 months later, sells for $1 billion. For every story you hear like that, I will tell you 10,000 stories of a company that never got off the ground, of a product that failed, or people that raised millions of dollars and it all burst into flames. You're not going to hear about those stories on The Daily Show. You're not going to read about them on Tech Meme. But they happen to the magnitude of 10,000 to 1. So don't expect that you're going to get into this and it's going to be an overnight success. I'm 6 years into DocStock. 6 years. 6 years ago, most of you were in junior high. 6 years ago, a lot of you haven't even gone through puberty. I'm not sure some of you have now, looking at you. A startup is running a marathon in a series of sprints. And at first, you won't have any conditioning. You're going to run as hard as you can for as long as you can, and you're going to hit a wall and you're going to crash. You're going to get up, you're going to shake yourself off, and the next time, instead of running a quarter of a mile as fast as you can, you'll be able to run a half mile, and then you'll collapse. And then after that, you'll be able to run a full mile, and then 2 miles, and then 3 miles, and eventually you'll just find yourself in a constant rhythm and pace building this business. For the first 2 years of DocStock, I worked in that office 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. And literally when I say I crashed, just every 3 months, my body just collapsed on me and I got violently ill and I would have to stay at home for a week because I got the flu or the pneumonia or something. And then I got up and I did it all over again. And now 6 years into DocStock, I still work on average 12 to 14 hours a day. But my conditioning, my startup conditioning is very different. And I can pace myself much differently than I could in that first year. The key thing for you all to think of is how fast can you move and how can you keep that momentum, because otherwise the anti-entrepreneurship inertia will pull us all down. Second to last point. What successful founding teams do is they model other people's success and iterate. They take something that's working, a business model, a product UI, UX flow, a monetization strategy, and they replicate it. And then they iterate it by making it slightly different and slightly better. And the biggest mistake that you're all going to make in this stage is that you're going to think, oh, I'm going to do something different than what everybody else did, and I'm going to figure it out my own way. I don't need to look at these other products. I don't need to dive into these business models. My thing's going to be different. It's not going to be different. It's just going to end up being worse. And my process for starting a business is twofold. One is I want to see what interesting, compelling problems I want to solve that I'm passionate about. But the much more scientific approach for me and technical approach is I just want to look at what somebody else is doing well and I want to copy it and do it better. I don't want to be the first person to create a market. Let somebody else go do that. I want to take a market that's already established, seeing people that are already making money, have a big business, and just say with confidence, I'm going to do that better than them. And I'm going to look at the UI flow of that product. I'm going to see how they make money. I'm going to look at the co-founding team that they had, and I'm just going to do each one of those things better. Consumer web is all about copying each other's shit and making it better. We all sit on the shoulders of each other. You show me the best, most genius, most amazing product teams that people would kill for, the teams at Path, the teams at Square. And they take the ideas of other people, mix it in a bowl, put in a little bit of their own seasoning, and call it their own. And what some of the most successful early founding teams do is look at a model of success, have the ability to model it very closely, and then iterate to make it different. Don't try to figure it out all on your own. There's a great book that's pretty dated but still really valuable called Don't Make Me Think, which talks about the basics of UI and UX. And however you think that somebody will use your product, they won't use your product that way. And there's an awesome platform called usertesting.com where you can pay people a very small amount of money and they'll go through your product. They'll have a webcam on. You'll see exactly what they did. They'll give you a narration of it. And you can get multiple feedback from different people on how they're actually using your product. And you will be shocked to see how people actually end up using your product and service, which is never the way that you expect it to. The other book that all of you should read, if you haven't already, is The Lean Startup. And the biggest thing I can promise you is that what we all do is we allow this feature creep, and especially as first-time creators of product for consumer web, for mobile apps, a lot of us think more features is more. It's not. If you build a product with 100 features, there's probably 3 that people use. Really. If you build a product with 100 features, there's 3 features that make up 90% of your user activity. But what so many of us do is we keep building these ancillary features that we think make a difference, where if we just kept making those 3 better, it would make our products much more popular. And so now I've kind of come to the last kind of point, which is about startups, but it's about life. And you all now are entering a situation where there's this vast amount of unknown in front of you. And that should be both simultaneously scary and exciting. And I've always known that something important was going to happen in my life when I get nervous about it. And there are a lot of things you don't know that you don't know. And there will be a lot of things that you will be wondering how to figure out. And I I will tell you what I think is the biggest trick to being successful in life, which is to be able to go into a situation before you have any external proof or validation that you can do something well, and be able to have certainty that you will achieve your goal. There is nothing in this world as charismatic, as persuasive, as addictive as certainty. And we all live in Los Angeles, and I am sure that you have all seen at some point some schmuck of a guy in a bar talking to some women that are much more attractive and on a scale much higher than him. And some people will chalk it up to, oh, this guy's got money, you know, fame, whatever. Take all that stuff aside. There is no quality in life as attractive and as compelling as certainty. And the reason that is so important is because as entrepreneurs, you don't have right now a lot of resources. You don't have a lot of money. You don't have people working for you. You know what you do have as a currency? You have certainty. You get to trade your certainty as a currency. Your certainty is what will get people to do things for you before you actually have the hard physical currencies to pay them for the things that they would normally do for you, i.e. money. And we all often think that here's how certainty comes about. You do activity X, whatever, let's say you go to school, and you do well, and people say you're smart. And then one person says you're smart, and two people say you're smart, and three people say you're smart, and four people say you're smart. And at some point, we all have this number, this threshold in our head, that when a certain amount of people tell us we're something, we believe it's so. And then we see ourselves as that, and so we project that out to everybody else. But really the whole trick of it is, nobody has to tell you anything for you to believe that. You get to believe whatever you want about yourself. And in some people's cases, it takes 100 people to say that they're quality X until they believe it. In other cases, 1,000 people can tell them and they'll never believe it. And for some rare people, if only one person themselves tells them that they are something, they can believe in it. And that is the quality, that is the essence of a great entrepreneur. That you can have certainty about yourself and about the outcome that you are going for before you have any external validation that tells you and informs you and confirms that you can actually do it. And if you are going to listen to one person tell you one thing, please listen to me now when I tell you that you all have everything it takes to be as successful as an entrepreneur as you want to be, to build the business of your dreams, to lead the life of your dreams. And all you've got to do is start by believing in yourselves. So thanks for having me here tonight.